My daughter burst into my empty house and froze. "Dad, why are you starving when you have a $7,000 pension?" But before I could answer, my son confidently interjected, "Because I give all his money to my wife." A moment later, my daughter closed the door from the inside, and what she did paralyzed my son. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. I heard the key turn in the lock before I registered what it meant. The sound cut through the quiet house like a blade. "Dad, surprise!" Beverly's voice rang bright and expectant through the hallway. I froze in the kitchen doorway, instant coffee still steaming in my hand. She wasn't supposed to come until... When had she said? This week sometime. I'd lost track of the days. "Dad?" I set the mug down and walked toward the entry. She stood there in the doorway, pulling a small suitcase behind her. Her face lit up with that smile I remembered from when she was 12 and won the science fair. Then her eyes tracked across the living room wall. The smile didn't exactly fade, it crystallized, turned brittle. The rectangles were obvious, less faded patches of beige paint where family photos had hung for 30 years, where her mother's landscapes had added color to our life. "Hey, sweetheart." I opened my arms for a hug. She moved forward, wrapped her arms around me, and I felt the moment she registered how much thinner I'd become. Her embrace tightened, then loosened quickly, like she was afraid of hurting me. When she pulled back, her eyes swept the room again. The entertainment center stood empty, its shelves gathering dust. One couch remained, the leather cracked and split, a spring poking through the cushion in the corner where I'd learned not to sit. No curtains on the windows. The evening darkness pressed against the glass. "Dad?" Her voice had changed. "What happened here?" The silence stretched between us like taffy. I shoved my hands in my pockets, felt the worn fabric of my jeans, the faded shirt with its small tear near the collar. "Beverly, I didn't know you were coming today." I tried for cheerful. "How was your flight? Is Mitchell with you? How's the weather in Germany this time of year?" She didn't answer. She was already moving through the room, her hand trailing along the empty wall, stopping at each rectangle of brighter paint. Her fingers trembled slightly. "Where's the TV? Where are Mom's paintings?" I downsized. Simpler life, you know? The words came out rehearsed because they were. I'd practiced this conversation in my head for months, dreading the day one of my children would notice. Beverly walked past me toward the kitchen. I followed, shoulders hunching forward automatically. She opened the refrigerator. The light spilled out, illuminating her face as she took inventory. 1 carton of milk. She checked the date. I saw her eyes narrow. 3 eggs in the door, a jar of store-brand peanut butter, white bread in a plastic bag. That was it. She closed the refrigerator carefully. Opened the cabinet above the counter, generic cereal, half a box. Opened the next one, 2 cans of soup, the next, empty, the next, empty. "Dad?" She turned to face me, and I saw my daughter the lawyer, not my little girl. "You get $7,000 pension every month. Where does it go?" $7,243 to be exact. 42 years with Phoenix Fire Department. I'd made captain, made a difference, saved lives. The pension was supposed to mean dignity. "I manage. Don't worry about me." "This isn't managing." She gestured at the barren kitchen, her voice rising. "This is... Dad, are you eating enough? When did you last see a doctor?" She'd spotted the medical bill. I'd left it on the counter because I had nowhere else to put it. $340 for a routine checkup I'd finally gone to when the chest pains got bad. Turned out to be heartburn. Couldn't afford the prescription they gave me for that either. "I eat plenty. You sound like your mother used to." It was a low blow, invoking her mother. Beverly's face tightened. She sat down heavily on the damaged couch, and I winced as the broken spring creaked under her weight. She didn't seem to notice. "Don't deflect. Something is very wrong here." I poured water from the tap into 2 mismatched glasses. The ice maker had broken last year. I brought them over, handed her one. My hands shook slightly. When had they started doing that? "Beverly, please." My voice came out rougher than I intended. "I'm tired. Can we talk tomorrow?" She studied my face for a long moment. I saw her taking in the details, the weight I'd lost, the torn shirt, the way I couldn't quite meet her eyes. Her analytical mind was working, piecing together a puzzle I didn't want solved. "Fine." She stood up, picked up her suitcase. But I'm not leaving Phoenix until I understand what's happening to you. I said nothing. Looked away toward the empty wall. She called an Uber from her phone. We stood in awkward silence until it arrived. She hugged me again at the door, longer this time, and I felt her reluctance to let go. I watched the car's taillights disappear down the street, watched until they turned the corner. Then I sat back on the broken couch, careful to avoid the spring, and stared at the empty entertainment center. She can't know, I thought. She'll try to fix it, and that'll only make things worse with Craig. He needs the money for the kids. His career isn't going like he planned. Judy has expectations. I don't need much. I've learned to get by on less. But something had shifted. Someone had finally seen. Someone had finally asked the questions I'd been avoiding for 3 years. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling of my bedroom where the blinds hung broken, letting in the streetlight in orange stripes across the walls. Sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Beverly's face when she opened that refrigerator. I barely slept after Beverly left. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face when she opened that refrigerator. The look of horror, then the calculation behind her eyes as she started adding things up. By 10 in the morning, I'd given up on rest. I sat at the kitchen table nursing instant coffee, the cheap kind that tasted like dirty water, but cost $2 for a month's supply. Through the window, I heard a car door slam. Beverly walked in carrying 4 grocery bags. Didn't knock, didn't ask permission. She went straight to the kitchen and started unpacking. Real eggs, the kind that came in cardboard cartons from actual farms. Fresh vegetables, tomatoes, lettuce, bell peppers. Quality bread from a bakery. Orange juice in a glass bottle. Beverly, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. She cut me off, her movements sharp and efficient. Anger channeled into action. She opened the refrigerator, started arranging everything with the precision of someone organizing evidence. We're having a real conversation today, Dad. No deflecting. I wanted to protest, wanted to explain that I was fine, that she was overreacting. But the words died in my throat as I watched her put actual food into my empty refrigerator. And the shame was too heavy to speak through. The front door opened. I heard it before I saw Beverly's reaction. Her whole body went rigid, her hands frozen mid-motion as she was putting milk on the shelf. Completely worth it, babe. Did you see the look on her face when you... Craig's voice, loud and easy, cut off as he entered the kitchen. Oh, Beverly? He stood in the doorway holding shopping bags. Nordstrom, Saks, Fifth Avenue. The branded logos seemed to glow under the kitchen fluorescent light. Behind him, Judy carried 2 more bags, her face flushed with shopping excitement that hadn't yet faded. Beverly straightened slowly, closed the refrigerator door, stepped between Craig and the kitchen doorway. Not aggressive, just occupying the space, blocking his casual exit. Craig! Her voice had gone cold, courtroom cold. Dad gets $7,000 pension. Why is there no food in this house? Craig shrugged, set his bags down carelessly on the floor. Because I give all his money to my wife. Dad's fine with it, right, Pop? He looked at me, expecting the automatic confirmation I'd given him every month for 3 years. My mouth wouldn't work. The words I'd rehearsed. He needs it more. The grandkids have opportunities I never had. It's better this way. Stuck somewhere between my brain and my tongue. Dad, Beverly's voice cut through my paralysis. Look at me. Are you fine with this? I stared at the table, saw my reflection distorted in the cheap laminate surface. Judy moved into the kitchen, set her bags next to Craig's. Your father doesn't need much, but our children need music school, private coaching, SAT tutors. He understands family comes first. Family comes first, Beverly repeated slowly, each word crystallized. She closed the kitchen door. Not a slam, just a firm click of the latch that sounded like a gavel in the sudden silence. Craig, you have exactly 1 week to return Dad's money, or I file criminal charges for financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. In Arizona, that's a felony. Craig laughed, actually laughed. You can't be serious. Beverly pulled out her phone, turned it to show him the screen. I couldn't see what was on it from where I sat, but I saw Craig's face change as he read. The laugh died. His skin went from amused ruddy to pale in seconds. Do I look like I'm joking? Beverly's voice had dropped even lower, each word precise. You'll lose your job, your house, everything. 1 week. Beverly, come on. Judy's voice had lost its confident edge. "We can talk about this. The kids genuinely need private SAT tutors?" Beverly cut her off. "Music school, while your father-in-law eats expired food and can't afford his medication? Get out. Both of you, now." Craig looked at me, his face a mixture of panic and betrayal, like I'd somehow engineered this confrontation instead of tried desperately to hide it. "Dad, tell her—" I wanted to speak, wanted to explain that it was complicated, that I'd volunteered, that keeping the peace in the family mattered more than my comfort. My mouth still wouldn't work. Years of keeping quiet, of nodding along, of accepting less, so Craig could have more. It had trained my voice into silence. Beverly opened the kitchen door. "Out." They left, Craig grabbing his bags clumsily, Judy following with her Nordstrom purchases clutched to her chest like shields. The front door closed. Not slammed, Craig had never been one for dramatic exits. Just closed, firm, and final. Beverly sat down across from me at the table. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. "You researched Arizona law," I finally managed. My voice came out hoarse, unused. "Last night at the hotel, Arizona Revised Statutes Section 46456, Elder Financial Exploitation, Class 2 felony. I wasn't bluffing, Dad." She reached across the table, put her hand over mine. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you live in Germany," I thought. "Because you have your own life. Because Craig is your brother. Because I'm the parent and I'm supposed to have it together. Because admitting it makes it real." "He needed it more," I said instead. "That's not your decision to make for yourself." Her grip tightened on my hand. "He was stealing from you. Do you understand that?" I did. Somewhere deep down, I'd understood it for a long time. But understanding and acknowledging are different countries, separated by a border I hadn't wanted to cross. For the first time in years, maybe since Janet died, maybe since even before that, something shifted inside my chest. Not hope exactly, not yet, but something like spine straightening. Someone had fought for me. My daughter had walked into my empty house and said enough. Maybe I could say enough too. 2 days passed since Beverly's ultimatum. The house felt different. The groceries in my fridge were proof someone cared. But I knew Craig wouldn't surrender easily. I'd been a fire chief for 32 years. I recognized tactical retreat when I saw it. I was drinking real coffee. Beverly had bought the good kind, the kind that actually tasted like coffee. When she arrived carrying a leather portfolio I'd never seen before. Ready to take control? She spread paperwork across my kitchen table. We drove to the Chase Bank branch on Camelback Road. The building looked like every other bank, but walking through those doors felt like crossing into foreign territory. The officer who helped us was a professional woman in her mid-40s, her name tag reading Samantha Chen. "Mr. Patterson, I'm setting up a personal checking account with your name only," she typed efficiently. "No joint access. Your pension will redirect here starting next month." Beverly's hand squeezed my shoulder. Silent support. No words needed. "You can add authorized users later," Chen continued, "but I recommend keeping this account solely in your name initially." "Just my name." My voice came out stronger than I expected. "That's exactly what I want." My hand shook signing the documents, but I signed them. Chen notarized each page with her official stamp, and something shifted in my chest. I was reclaiming something I'd given away, without realizing how much it had cost me. Driving back, Beverly asked, "How do you feel?" "Like I can breathe again." I forgot what that felt like. We returned home mid-afternoon. Beverly started preparing dinner. Actual dinner, chicken with vegetables, and the smell filled the house with something I'd almost forgotten. Normalcy. The possibility of comfort. The front door opened without warning. Craig entered with Emma and Lucas. Both children had tear-stained faces, eyes red and swollen. Craig's expression was calculated sadness, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. Emma ran to me, her small body colliding with my legs. "Grandpa, Daddy says you don't love us anymore. Why won't you help us?" Lucas followed, his voice breaking. "Are we going to be homeless?" I felt my heart crack. These were my grandchildren. I'd held them as babies, taught Lucas to ride a bike, helped Emma with her multiplication tables. Hearing their fear, even if coached, nearly destroyed my resolve. "Sweetheart, My voice broke. Beverly stood from the kitchen table, moved to the doorway. Not aggressive, just occupying the space, blocking Craig's path. Craig positioned the children in front of him like human shields. Dad, the kids are devastated. Is this really what you want? To hurt your own grandchildren? My hand reached automatically for my checkbook. Old reflex. Stop the pain. Make it better. I'd survived burning buildings, pulled people from wreckage, faced death without flinching, but my granddaughter's tears nearly destroyed me. Beverly caught my wrist gently. Craig, you earn $65,000 yearly. That's more than enough for your family. My father isn't responsible for funding your lifestyle beyond your means. You don't understand, Craig started. The front door opened again. Judy swept in, makeup smeared dramatically, tissues clutched in one hand. Perfect timing. Staged. How are we supposed to afford anything now? Her voice pitched high, theatrical. We're pulling the kids from music lessons, canceling sports registration. They'll fall behind their classmates. Is that what you want, Ray? Your grandchildren to suffer? Private music lessons aren't necessities. Beverly cut through the performance. Public school sports are free. SAT prep can wait until high school. Judy's face shifted, the victim act collapsing when confronted with logic. She pivoted. You're turning him against his own son. You only care now because you want his inheritance when he dies. The words hit like physical blows. Low, intentional. Beverly pulled out her phone, turned it toward Craig. Your dealership lists manager salaries publicly. Base $65,000 plus commission. Average Phoenix family expenses, housing, food, utilities, roughly $4,500 monthly. That leaves a surplus. You're not struggling, you're overspending. She scrolled to another screen. You're teaching your children that emotional manipulation works, that exploiting elderly family members is acceptable. Is that really the legacy you want? Craig had no response. His mouth opened, closed. Emma looked up at him, confused by the sudden silence. Get out, Beverly said quietly. Take your performance somewhere else. Craig grabbed Lucas's hand, gestured for Emma to follow. His parting shot came from the doorway. You'll regret this, Dad. Family is supposed to stick together. I stood at the window watching them drive away. Emma's small face pressed against the rear window, looking back at the house, at me. Beverly came beside me. You okay? I nodded slowly. The movement felt heavy, weighted with years of accumulated guilt and confusion. For the first time in years, yes. I have to return to Germany in 3 days. She said it gently, but I felt my stomach drop, alone again. But before I go, I'm leaving you instructions, everything you need to keep fighting. That night, Beverly typed while I watched. A detailed document grew on her laptop screen. Banks to call, lawyers to consult, records to keep, steps to follow. She printed it, highlighted key sections, handed it to me like a field manual. I read it 3 times before bed. 72 hours later, I stood at my doorway watching Beverly's Uber disappear toward the airport. In my hand, that document. The house felt empty again. But this time, the emptiness was different. This time, I was armed. The house felt emptier after Beverly flew back to Germany, but different than before. This emptiness was mine, chosen, not imposed. I sat at my kitchen table with her instructions spread out like battle plans. Because that's what they were. 5 days had passed since she left. Craig and Judy moved through the house like ghosts, present but separate, our conversations reduced to necessary pleasantries. They hadn't confronted me about the pension yet, but I knew they'd checked the account. I'd seen Craig's face when he came home from the bank, that tightness around his mouth. First item on Beverly's list? Find family law attorney, not someone Craig knows. I circled it with blue pen, picked up my phone. 32 years fighting fires, but making this call felt harder than running into burning buildings. My hand hovered over the screen. I dialed. 3 law offices later, I had an appointment. Margaret Chen, family law specialist. Tomorrow afternoon, 2:30. That evening, I began hunting. Craig and Judy were at Lucas's soccer practice. I moved through the house methodically, documenting evidence with my phone camera. A Nordstrom receipt in the bathroom trash. $847 charged to my card. Judy's spa bill on the kitchen counter. $320. A restaurant receipt from Mastro's Steakhouse tucked in Craig's jacket pocket. $286 for a Tuesday night dinner. I photographed each one, making sure dates and amounts were clear. Created a folder on my phone labeled Records, not evidence. If Craig saw my phone somehow, I didn't want him to know what I was building. The next day I drove to downtown Phoenix. The attorney's office was in a modern building near the courthouse. I parked 3 blocks away, walked the rest. Probably paranoid, but I couldn't risk Craig seeing my car at a law office. I felt ridiculous wearing sunglasses indoors, like some spy movie character. But I kept them on until the elevator doors closed. Margaret Chen's office was smaller than I expected, efficient. Her desk was clean except for a laptop and a yellow legal pad. She stood when I entered, shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Patterson, please sit." I sat straight-backed in the chair across from her desk, hands folded, fire chief posture returning without conscious thought. "How long has your son been controlling your finances?" 5 years, maybe longer." The admission tasted bitter. I didn't want to admit it was control. She made notes on her legal pad. "Did he ever threaten you, physically intimidate you?" "No, he used my grandchildren, said they needed things. I couldn't say no to them." Her pen paused. She looked up, and I saw understanding in her eyes that made my throat tight. "That's emotional coercion, harder to prove legally, but we can build a civil case." She pulled out a printed packet, slid it across the desk. "Arizona revised statutes on elder financial exploitation. Criminal charges require evidence of threats or forgery, but civil recovery and asset protection, those are achievable." She explained options: changing my will, establishing power of attorney with Beverly, documenting the abuse, possible civil suit for recovery of funds. Her voice was steady, factual, but not cold. Professional. "First step, document everything. Every receipt, every expense, every conversation. I need 6 months of financial records, photographs of your living conditions, evidence journal showing the pattern. I can do that. Mr. Patterson, if you do this, change your will, cut him off, there's no going back. You understand that?" I met her gaze. "Yes. You're not punishing him. You're protecting yourself. There's a difference." Her fee was $350 per hour, $3,500 retainer. I winced but agreed. This was what having my pension back meant. I could afford to protect myself. That evening, Beverly called via video. The time difference meant it was her evening, my morning coffee. She looked tired. "How did it go?" She said I have options, more than I thought. I adjusted the laptop angle so she could see my face better. "I'm going to fight, Beverly, really fight." Over the following weeks, I became a covert investigator. When Craig and Judy left, work, errands, children's activities, I photographed evidence. Luxury clothing tags still attached in Judy's closet, never worn. Craig's golf club membership renewal notice, $2,400 annually. Children's activity schedules showing piano lessons at $200 monthly. Travel soccer at $1,800 per season. Private swim coaching at $150 weekly. I photographed my own bedroom. Single cheap lamp, worn bed sheets with holes, clothes I'd mended myself, the stitching visible and crude. The contrast was damning. I created a spreadsheet matching credit card statements to receipts, $4,800 monthly going to Craig's lifestyle, leaving me $2,200, barely livable in Phoenix. Mitchell, Beverly's husband, helped organize the data remotely, financial analyst by trade. He turned my scattered evidence into clear patterns, graphs showing the systematic exploitation over 5 years. One evening, Craig found me at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I closed it quickly, but not before he glimpsed the spreadsheet. His eyes narrowed. "What are you working on, Dad?" I met his gaze, held it. "My future. Where'd your pension go this month?" "My account, my money." His face darkened, jaw tightening. "We have an agreement. We had an arrangement." My voice stayed level, despite my racing heart. "It's over." He stormed out. My hand trembled after, coffee sloshing in my cup. But I hadn't backed down. Small victory. Huge significance. 3 weeks into evidence collection, I had overwhelming documentation. Attorney Chin reviewed everything via secure email. Her response came within hours. "This is excellent. You have enough for civil case and will change. Next step, make your financial independence permanent. Recommend closing all joint accounts, establishing power of attorney with your daughter. Can you come in next week?" I read the email twice. This was real now. No turning back. I scheduled the appointment. That night, I was at the kitchen table with my laptop when Craig entered. I'd been reviewing the spreadsheet one more time, making sure everything was accurate. Didn't hear him come in. He stood in the doorway for several seconds before speaking, long enough to see the screen, to see the columns of numbers, the highlighted discrepancies, the evidence compiled against him. "What are you working on, Dad?" I met his gaze. My future. The tension shattered like glass dropped on concrete. Craig's expression shifted through several emotions: confusion, realization, anger, before settling into something cold and calculating. He knew something was coming. He just didn't know what. The night Craig saw my spreadsheet, I barely slept. I knew he suspected something, but he couldn't know how far I'd already gone. This morning, I was finishing it. Mid-April sun warmed my car as I sat in the Chase Bank parking lot, gathering courage. 3 minutes passed while I stared at the folder in my passenger seat. Attorney Chen's voice echoed in my head. "You're not punishing him. You're protecting yourself." I picked up the folder and walked inside. Sarah Martinez, the bank manager, met me in her office. Professional suit, kind eyes, the kind of person who'd seen situations like mine before. "Mr. Patterson, I have your account flagged for vulnerable customer protection. Let's review what you're requesting." I spread the documents across her desk. Power of attorney from Beverly, notarized at the U.S. Embassy in Berlin. Instructions from Attorney Chen. My own handwritten list of accounts to close. I need to close all joint accounts immediately. Cancel any credit cards with my son's access. Issue new cards to me only, with my daughter Beverly as authorized user. Martinez nodded, made notes. "Once we process this, the joint accounts will be inaccessible to anyone except you and Ms. Beverly Patterson Hughes. Are you certain?" I've never been more certain of anything. The signatures came easier than I expected. First document, my hand trembled. By the third, it steadied. Each signature was a small act of rebellion against 5 years of silence. Martinez stamped each form with her official seal. Thunk, thunk, thunk. The sound of finality. I walked out of that bank taller than I'd entered. Sunlight hit me differently, warmer somehow. Back home, I made lunch. Real lunch. Sandwich with actual deli meat from the goods section at Safeway, fresh vegetables, real cheese. I sat at my kitchen table and ate slowly, savoring each bite like freedom had a taste. 2 hours had passed since I left the bank when Craig's card declined at a Safeway across town. I learned this later. He'd been buying steaks, wine, expensive cheese. Tried the card 3 times. The cashier suggested calling his bank. He called from the parking lot. Learned the accounts were closed. I was finishing my sandwich when the front door slammed open. Craig stood in the doorway, face red, breathing hard. "What did you do?" "My card was declined. Are you insane? We have bills. We have kids." I set down my sandwich, took a sip of water, met his eyes. "You have a job. You have a salary. Use that. You can't just cut us off. We've lived here for 6 years. We have rights." I stood slowly. "You have no rights. This is my house, my money, my pension that I earned risking my life for 32 years. You never paid $1 in rent." Judy rushed in behind him, her face flushed with humiliation. "You're destroying this family. Your own grandchildren will suffer because you're being selfish." "I'm being selfish?" The words came out colder than I intended. "I've eaten peanut butter for dinner while you bought $700 dresses. I declined medical appointments while Craig paid for golf club memberships." Craig paced the kitchen, pulling at his hair. His voice rose progressively, desperation bleeding through anger. "You're senile. Beverly's brainwashed you. We'll contest this. You're not mentally competent. We'll call social services. Tell them you can't care for yourself." I sat back down, picked up my sandwich, took another bite. My calm seemed to infuriate him more than any argument could have. "You have 60 days to find other housing. I'm filing eviction paperwork tomorrow. This conversation is over." Craig stormed toward the bedroom he and Judy had claimed. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. 30 minutes later, Judy returned from wherever she'd Ubered after her card declined. Her humiliation had transformed into panic. "Do you know what it's like having your card declined in front of people?" I looked at her, really looked at her. "Yes, Judy, I do. I've been declining medical appointments for 3 years because I had no money. But you wouldn't know that, would you?" She had no response. Retreated to join Craig in their bedroom bunker. After they left, I sat alone. My hands shook, adrenaline crash. but underneath the trembling was steel. For 5 years, I'd let them take everything because I thought I was being a good father, a good grandfather. But good fathers don't let themselves be destroyed. Good fathers teach boundaries. I called Beverly. She was at work in Germany, took the call in a conference room. She saw my face and knew immediately. "You did it." I nodded. "How do you feel?" I considered the question. Terrified, but free. Like I just walked out of a burning building and can finally breathe. That evening, I sat in the living room, not hiding in my bedroom anymore. Behind closed doors, I heard Craig and Judy arguing, muffled shouting, Judy's crying. Craig's angry responses getting louder, then softer, then louder again. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mr. Patterson?" The voice was smooth, condescending. "This is Robert Simmons. I represent your son, Craig. I'm calling to inform you that we'll be challenging your eviction attempt. My clients have established residency and—" I interrupted. "Tell your clients to be out in 60 days, or I'll have the sheriff remove them. My attorney is Margaret Chen." I gave him her contact information. Direct all future communication through her. I hung up. My heart pounded, but I didn't regret it. War had officially begun. Living with Craig and Judy after cutting off their money was like living on a battleship after declaring war. We orbited each other in hostile silence, but the house was mine again. I could feel it. 3 weeks had passed since the financial cutoff. Early May brought desert heat that made the tension inside feel even thicker. I was making breakfast, eggs, toast, real coffee, when the doorbell rang. Registered mail. I signed for the thick envelope, recognizing Attorney Chen's return address. Inside was the formal eviction notice. Official, legal, irrevocable. I had to serve it to Craig and Judy personally. Arizona law required direct delivery. I drove to Chen's office that afternoon. She had the paperwork spread across her desk, highlighting key sections as I arrived. Notice to vacate, citing non-payment of rent and no lease agreement. You're reclaiming your property. Arizona law is unambiguous here. Craig's attorney will fight it? Of course. He'll probably argue oral lease agreement or adverse possession. Neither applies. No rent, no lease, no rights. She leaned back in her chair. Elder financial abuse cases often involve family interference, Ray. Extended family will call. They'll hear Craig's version first. Expect that. I signed the eviction notice. My signature was firm now, no hesitation. Progression I could measure in pen strokes. Back home, I found Craig and Judy in the kitchen eating food they had bought with Craig's actual salary. First time in years, they'd paid for their own groceries. I approached the table, extended the paperwork. "This is official notice. 60 days from today." Craig snatched the paper without reading it, threw it on the table dismissively, but Judy picked it up, read it. Her face drained of color. "You're really doing this?" Craig's voice was hollow. "Throwing your own son out. You've changed, Dad. You're not the man I knew." "You're right. I'm not. I'm the man I should have been 5 years ago." Within days, my phone started ringing. Distant relatives, family, friends, people who hadn't called in years, suddenly concerned about my well-being. Uncle Tom, "You're being cruel. Family takes care of family." Former neighbor Carol, "I heard you're kicking them out. Those poor children." Craig's godmother, Barbara, "I've known you 40 years, Ray. This isn't like you." Each call was painful. Some I explained my side to, calmly. Others I simply said, "You don't know the full story," and ended the conversation. The worst call came from my sister Linda in Florida. "Ray, Craig says you're throwing them on the street. Your own grandchildren. What's gotten into you?" "Linda, when's the last time you visited me? 3 years? You don't know what I've been through. Craig stole $300,000 from me over 5 years. He can tell you what he wants. I know the truth. Mom would be ashamed of you." The words hit like a physical blow. Our mother had been dead 12 years. Mom taught me to stand up for myself. I'm finally listening. Linda hung up on me. I screened calls for 3 days after that. But I didn't stop living. I went to Costco, filled a cart with real groceries, steaks, fresh fruit, ice cream, good coffee. The cashier commented, "Big family?" I smiled. "No, just me, making up for lost time." I stopped at the cable company, restored full service. Scheduled a doctor's appointment, first in 3 years. Dr. Patel was a small woman with sharp eyes. She ran blood tests, checked my vitals, asked questions I'd been avoiding. "Mr. Patterson, your blood pressure is dangerously high. And you're showing signs of malnutrition. How long has this been going on? Too long, but I'm fixing it now. She prescribed medications I could finally afford, ordered follow-up tests, asked what had changed. I took my life back. Meanwhile, Craig and Judy weren't passive. Through the walls, I heard them plotting. Craig filmed me with his phone whenever we crossed paths, documenting everything for his attorney. Judy posted vague messages on social media about family betrayal and elder confusion. Beverly monitored it, warned me. They're trying to build a public narrative that you're incompetent. Craig's attorney sent a letter to Chen demanding I pay their moving costs, claiming constructive eviction. Chen called me, read the letter aloud, then laughed. He's grasping. The law doesn't support any of this. Stay the course. I met with Chen again mid-May. She reviewed Craig's attorney's response point by point. He's claiming oral lease agreement. Arizona requires written lease for enforceability beyond month to month. He paid no rent. He has no lease. The law is unambiguous. The family calls keep coming. Elder financial abuse cases often involve family members siding with the abuser. It's common. They don't see the evidence you've collected. Stay focused on facts, not emotions. That evening, I sat on my newly purchased couch, modest but comfortable, my choice, watching the news on my restored cable. The phone rang again. Another relative. I let it go to voicemail. Behind closed doors, I heard Craig and Judy arguing. We have 3 weeks left. We need to actually look for places. Judy's voice cracked with reality. My attorney says we can drag this out, make him regret. He has a real attorney, Craig. We have Robert Simmons from a strip mall. We can't win this. First crack in their united front. I felt no satisfaction, just tired determination. Tomorrow I had another appointment with Chen. We were discussing the next phase, changing my will permanently. The eviction was one battle. The war had more fronts to fight. I sat at my kitchen table drinking good coffee, my choice, my money, when the phone rang. Attorney Chen's office number. Mr. Patterson, I've arranged for an adult protective services assessment. A social worker will visit your home to document your living conditions over the past years. This will strengthen our case considerably. My stomach tightened. A stranger judging my life, cataloging my failures. This isn't an investigation of you, Chen continued, reading my silence. It's documentation of what was done to you. There's a difference. 2 days later, Diana Foster arrived, professional woman in her 50s, carrying a camera and iPad. She shook my hand firmly. Mr. Patterson, I'm here to understand your situation and document what you've experienced. May I come in? I led her through the house, showed her my bedroom, sparse, minimal furniture, cheap lamp. I pulled out my phone, showed her photos from February when Beverly first arrived. The contrast made Diana pause. May I photograph this? I nodded. She documented everything methodically. Empty walls where family photos once hung, my medical bills folder, years of unpaid statements, prescription bottles recently filled after years of going without. The refrigerator, now full, stark contrast to what it had been. We sat at the kitchen table. She interviewed me for 90 minutes, taking notes constantly. I need to ask directly. Did your son ever threaten you physically to get your money? No, he used my grandchildren, told me they needed things. I couldn't refuse them. When did you start skipping meals? I had to think. Maybe 3 years ago, when Craig said the kids needed expensive sports equipment, I figured I could eat less. The words sounded worse spoken aloud than they had in my head. Why didn't you ask for help sooner? He's my son. My throat tightened. I kept thinking it was temporary, that he'd get back on his feet. I didn't want to admit I was being used. Diana's expression remained professional, but I saw understanding there. Mr. Patterson, you're a victim of financial elder abuse. What happened to you isn't your fault. Hearing those words from an official government employee made something crack inside me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I had been genuinely exploited. Diana requested my medical records. I signed the release form. She contacted Dr. Patel's office right there, arranged for documentation of everything. The malnutrition, the skipped appointments, the stress-related conditions. She measured my bedroom, measured Craig and Judy's larger bedroom, noting the furniture bought on my credit cards. Physical inequality, documented with a tape measure. I opened my filing cabinet, pulled out 5 years of bank statements. Diana's professional neutrality shifted as she reviewed them, Her jaw tightened. "This is substantial." The front door opened. Craig froze, seeing Diana, her official camera, her APS identification badge visible on her lanyard. He retreated to his bedroom without speaking. Diana noted it in her report. Before leaving, she told me her conclusion. "Mr. Patterson, based on what I've documented today, I'll be filing a formal report of financial exploitation by a family member. This report will be submitted to the court and to your attorney. Will this help my case? My report will document clear evidence of financial exploitation and neglect. Combined with your attorney's evidence, it's compelling." That week, I received official notice. Court hearing scheduled mid-July. Specific date, specific time, specific courtroom. I called Beverly that evening. "The hearing's set. I'm already booking my flight. I'll be there, Dad." Knowing I wouldn't face this alone strengthened something in me I thought had broken. That night, I overheard Craig and Judy arguing. "That was Adult Protective Services, Craig. Do you understand what that means? They think we abused him." "We didn't abuse anyone. He gave us that money willingly." "Willingly? You guilted him with the kids every single time. And now there's a government report saying we exploited him." "My attorney says," "Your attorney is worthless. We need to try something else." 3 days after Diana's visit, Judy approached me. Craig was at work. She sat at the kitchen table, crying, possibly genuine this time. "Ray, I know things got out of hand. I know we took too much. I'm sorry. I really am. Can we just start over? We'll pay rent going forward. We'll budget better. We'll give you space. Please don't go through with the eviction. Think of Emma and Lucas. They love you." Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted family peace, but I'd learned to recognize manipulation. "Judy, you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. You're not apologizing for 5 years of taking my money. You're asking for another chance to keep living here rent-free." "I'm trying to make amends. What do you want from me?" "I want you to leave in 3 weeks like the court will order. Find an apartment, live on Craig's salary, learn to budget, grow up." Her tears turned to anger. "You're going to regret this. Those kids will never forgive you." "Then I'll live with that. But I won't live as your ATM machine anymore." 1 week before the hearing, I received Diana's completed report via email from Chen. 18 pages, detailed, damning, section headers, evidence of financial exploitation, documentation of neglect, medical impact assessment, photographic evidence. Chen's accompanying message: "This is excellent documentation. Combined with financial records, this significantly strengthens our position. See you in court next week." I printed the report, read every page. My life reduced to clinical language, but also validation, official confirmation. I wasn't crazy, wasn't selfish, wasn't wrong. I had been genuinely exploited. The night before the hearing, I sat on my couch, report on the coffee table. Tomorrow changed everything. Win or lose, there was no going back. I'd walked into burning buildings knowing I might not walk out. But sitting in Beverly's rental car heading to court, I was more terrified than I'd ever been fighting fires. This fire had been burning for 5 years, and today, it either got extinguished or consumed what was left of my family. Beverly parked, squeezed my hand. "You've got this, Dad. The truth is on your side." I nodded. Couldn't speak. Got out of the car. The courthouse hallway was cold despite July heat outside. I wore my best suit, bought specifically for this, first new clothes in years. Margaret Chen stood nearby, reviewing documents, 3 accordion folders on a rolling cart. Across the hallway, Craig and Judy sat with Robert Simmons. Craig alternated between angry glares and nervous fidgeting. Judy looked defeated. The bailiff called us in. Judge Elizabeth Morrison presided. Mid-60s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed the case summary aloud. Eviction proceeding, Patterson versus Patterson, with allegations of elder financial exploitation. Hearing it spoken officially made my hands shake. Chen presented first. Methodical. Devastating. Bank statements projected on screen. 60 months of transfers, each one documented. The total appeared in red. 341,127. Your Honor, over 5 years, the defendant transferred $340,127 from his father's accounts. The father, meanwhile, was documented by Adult Protective Services as malnourished and living in substandard conditions. Chen clicked through slides. Each click was a hammer blow. Receipt, statement, receipt, statement. The visual rhythm of exploitation. Photographs appeared on screen. My empty refrigerator from February. Judy's closet full of designer items, tags still attached. Craig's golf club membership renewal. My sparse bedroom next to their better furnished room. No commentary needed. The pictures told the story. Dr. Patel's medical affidavit was read into record. Vitamin deficiencies, weight loss, untreated hypertension, skipped cancer screening. Mr. Patterson risked his health, possibly his life, because he had no money for health care, while his son's family enjoyed spa treatments and steak dinners. Craig's attorney Simmons attempted defense. Verbal agreement, gifts to grandchildren, Beverly manipulating for inheritance. Each argument sounded weaker than the last. Judge Morrison allowed Craig to testify. He claimed he was helping me manage money, that I wanted to help my grandchildren. His voice rose when questioned, became defensive. Your Honor, there's no evidence of coercion, Simmons started. Judge Morrison cut him off. Counselor, I've reviewed the social worker's report. Emotional manipulation of an elderly parent constitutes coercion under Arizona statute. Continue. The judge turned to me. Mr. Patterson Sr., did you feel you could refuse your son? My voice came out quiet but steady. No, Your Honor. He used my grandchildren. Every time I hesitated, he'd say they needed something. I couldn't say no to them. Judge Morrison removed her reading glasses, made direct eye contact with Craig. Mr. Craig Patterson, your father received $7,000 monthly. Where did that money go? To his grandchildren's education, activities, their future. Not what I asked. Where specifically did it go? Craig stammered, pointed at Beverly accusingly. She's poisoned him against us. She wants his inheritance. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. After closing arguments, she didn't deliberate, delivered her ruling immediately. I've presided over family law cases for 18 years. This is among the clearest examples of financial elder exploitation I've encountered. Mr. Craig Patterson, you systematically drained your father's retirement income while he lived in poverty. You used his love for his grandchildren as leverage. You provided no compensation, no care, no gratitude. Her words fell like stones. The law is unambiguous. Mr. Ray Patterson owns this property. You pay no rent. You have no lease. Your claimed oral agreement is unsupported by evidence and was obtained through emotional coercion of a vulnerable adult. Craig's face drained of color. Therefore, eviction is granted. You have 30 days to vacate the property. Additionally, I'm ordering financial restitution in the amount of $50,000, payable over 5 years at $833 monthly, beginning 60 days from today. Judy covered her face with her hands. Finally, I'm ordering that a copy of this judgment and the Adult Protective Services report be filed with the Arizona Attorney General's Elder Abuse Unit for their review regarding potential criminal charges. The gavel struck. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Beverly hugged me. I was shaking. Chen packed her documents, satisfied. Across the room, Craig sat frozen. Judy was crying, genuine this time. Craig looked at me across the courtroom. Our eyes met. I expected hatred. Instead saw broken confusion, as if he still didn't understand how it came to this. I looked away first. Outside, afternoon sun was brutal. Beverly and I sat on a concrete bench near the courthouse steps. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. How do you feel? She finally asked. I considered the question, like I just put out a 5-year fire, exhausted, relieved, and sad. He's still my son. I didn't want it to end this way. Beverly nodded. But it had to end. Yes, it had to. We sat watching people enter and exit the courthouse. Divorces, custody battles, evictions, everyone fighting someone. This wasn't victory, it was survival. And survival was enough. Tomorrow, Craig and Judy would begin packing. In 30 days, my house would be mine alone again. The house had become a silent war zone. Craig and Judy moved through rooms like ghosts, packing boxes, making phone calls to apartment complexes, never speaking to me. I'd won in court, but living with them during these final weeks felt like occupying enemy territory. The tension was physical, You could feel it pressing against your skin when you walked from room to room. Tomorrow, I would make the victory permanent. I sat at my kitchen table, reviewing the estate attorney's intake questionnaire. Questions about assets, beneficiaries, funeral wishes. Stark reminder of mortality, but also opportunity to control my legacy. Each question forced me to confront what I was leaving behind and who deserved to receive it. Thomas Wright's office was downtown, modern building with pale gray walls. He was my age, maybe older, with kind eyes that had seen their share of family conflicts. The kind of eyes that didn't judge, just witnessed. "Mr. Patterson, you're certain about this distribution? Once you sign, this becomes your legal will." I looked at the document spread before me. My current will, written 15 years ago when Janet was still alive and Craig was a son I trusted, split everything 50-50 between Craig and Beverly. That version of our family felt like ancient history now. "I'm certain. My son stole my retirement. He doesn't deserve my death too." The words sounded harsh, spoken aloud. But they were true. Wright didn't flinch. He explained the disinheritance clause in careful legal language. $1 with explicit reason. Due to financial exploitation of testator during 2019-2025, as documented in Maricopa County Superior Court. Clinical language for 5 years of systematic theft. If he contests, this language will make it difficult to prevail. You're stating clear intent. The court case provides documentation. This isn't an oversight. Good. I want it clear this wasn't senility or confusion. This was choice. I signed 3 copies. My hand was steady. The pen moved smoothly across each signature line. 1 copy for my safe deposit box. 1 for Beverly. 1 for Wright's files. The notary public witnessed each signature, her stamp thudding against the paper. Official, final, irrevocable. Wright sent a certified letter to Craig that afternoon. Arizona law didn't require it, but it prevented future claims of a hidden will. 3 days later, I was making coffee when the mail carrier pulled up. I watched from the kitchen window as she walked to the door with the distinctive green certified mail slip. Watched Craig answer in his rumpled work clothes, sign for the letter, tear it open right there on the doorstep. His body language changed instantly. The casual way he'd opened it shifted to rigid stillness. I saw him read the first page, then the second. His face went pale. He came inside holding the letter like it might burn him. Walked past me without speaking, without looking. His bedroom door closed with a controlled click that was somehow worse than a slam. Muffled shouting followed, Judy's voice high and sharp, Craig's defensive and rising. I couldn't make out words, just the rhythm of accusation and denial. 2 days before moving day, I encountered him in the hallway. We'd been avoiding each other, but the house was only so big. "You really sent me a copy of your will?" His voice was quiet, dangerous. "You couldn't even wait until you were gone to twist the knife?" "It's not about punishment, Craig. It's about consequences. You made choices. This is what they cost." He stared at me for a long moment, struggling to find words. Finally, he just shook his head and walked away. Through the bedroom wall that night, their argument was clearer. "Your father left you $1, Craig. $1. Do you understand we've lost everything because you couldn't stop taking his money? He had plenty. We needed nothing. I needed designer bags. You needed to look successful. And now we're moving into an apartment that smells like mildew." Moving day arrived with harsh morning sunlight. The U-Haul backed into the driveway at 7:30. I stayed in my bedroom with the door closed, reading a book I wasn't absorbing, just waiting for it to be over. Heavy furniture scraped across floors. Boxes dropped with hollow thuds. Judy directed the movers Craig had hired. 2 young guys who worked quickly, probably sensing the tension. Then I heard the children's voices. Emma and Lucas, confused about the move. Emma asking, "Why can't we stay here? This is our home." Judy's response was sharp. "Because your grandfather wants us to leave." It broke my heart, but emerging would only make it worse. Truck doors slammed repeatedly over 2 hours. Finally, silence. The engine started with a diesel rumble. I walked to the living room window, watched the U-Haul lumber down the street. Craig's sedan following. Watched them turn the corner. Disappear. The house settled into quiet so complete it felt unnatural. I sat on my bed for 10 minutes, not moving, just breathing, then stood and walked through the house, empty spaces where their furniture had been. Carpet showed indentations from years of weight, cleaner than it had been in years. Mine. Finally, completely mine. That evening, my phone buzzed. Text from Craig. Dad, I know you're angry. I understand why. I made mistakes. Big ones. But I'm still your son. Emma and Lucas are still your grandchildren. Can we find a way forward? I'm genuinely sorry for how things went. Please respond. I read it 3 times. The father part of me, the part that remembered teaching him to ride a bike, helping with homework, wanted to respond. Wanted to believe Craig finally understood. But I'd learned to recognize manipulation's patterns. The text didn't say, I'm sorry I stole from you. It said, I made mistakes. Passive, vague. It didn't acknowledge the harm, just regretted consequences. And it invoked the grandchildren. Same old tool. I typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I left it unanswered. Sometimes silence is the only honest response. That night, I walked through the empty house, turning on lights in each room, claiming territory, making it known that this space was mine now. I sat in the living room on my old couch, the only furniture remaining. The house felt enormous around me, empty but full of possibility. My phone rang. Beverly. How are you doing? They're gone. And I have my house back, and I'm alone, and I think that's okay. It won't be for long. Her voice carried excitement I hadn't heard in months. I have news. The Phoenix office is opening in 2 weeks. My company approved my transfer. I'm moving back to the States, permanently. Something tight in my chest loosened. Really? Really, Mitchell will stay in Germany for now, visit monthly. But I'm coming home, Dad. We're going to fix up that house, make it yours again. Fresh start. I looked around at empty walls, worn carpet, old couch with its familiar spring, nodded even though she couldn't see. Fresh start, I like the sound of that. 2 weeks of living alone in the house had been strange, peaceful but hollow, like living in a museum of my own life. I'd established routines, coffee on the patio at sunrise, reading, simple meals. But everything felt temporary. Today, that changed. Beverly was coming home, not for a visit, but for good. I parked at Phoenix Sky Harbor, watching planes descend through desert heat. Her text came, landed, baggage claim in 10. I drove to the terminal, saw her emerge with 2 large suitcases, waving when she spotted me. She looked different, lighter, excited. I hadn't felt this hopeful in years. Inside the house, Beverly walked slowly through each room. I watched her take in the emptiness, bare walls, worn carpet, years of neglect visible everywhere, her jaw set with determination. It's emptier than I expected, but it's yours now, really yours. How does that feel? Like I'm living in potential. Everything here can be what I choose now. Then let's choose. We're fixing this, Dad. We drove to furniture stores. At a showroom, the salesman showed us a sectional, deep gray fabric, comfortable cushions. On sale, $3,200, delivery included. I hesitated. Old habit. $3,000 was nearly half a month's pension. Dad, Beverly's voice was firm. Stop calculating poverty math. You can afford this. Buy the couch you actually want. I ran my hand along the fabric, sat down, sank into cushions that didn't poke springs into my back. We'll take it. Over 2 weeks, we transformed the house. Bought paint. Beverly chose warm tan for the living room. We painted together, laughing when paint speckled our clothes. The sectional arrived on day 3. I sat on it that evening, Beverly beside me, and felt something inside me unclench. We assembled IKEA furniture, bookcases, kitchen table, nightstand. Instructions spread across the floor, moments of frustration, then satisfaction when pieces clicked together. Normal activities. Family working towards something good. Beverly insisted on plants. Empty house needs life. We bought 4, 2 for living room windowsills, 1 for kitchen, 1 for my bedroom. They're resilient, she said. They'll grow if you give them what they need. I understood the metaphor. We hung family photos she'd brought from Germany, me and Janet at our wedding, Beverly as a child. Craig's high school graduation photo. That one hurt, but Beverly insisted. This is who he was, not who he became. You're allowed to remember both. We bought a new TV, 55 inches. I chose what I wanted, set it up with Beverly reading instructions. When it powered on, I felt absurdly proud. The house was becoming mine, not just legally, but actually. 10 days after Beverly arrived, an envelope came, certified mail, from Craig's attorney. I opened it at the kitchen table. New table. Beverly had made sandwiches. Inside, certified check. $833. Memo line. Court-ordered restitution, one of 60. I stared at it. This represented 5 years of exploitation compressed into monthly payments. Craig would send this check 60 times. A constant reminder of what he'd done, what we'd both lost. From Craig, court-ordered. This feels wrong somehow. Beverly watched me, didn't interrupt. You could deposit it. You could burn it. It's yours. What do you want? I thought about it. I didn't need Craig's money anymore. My pension was mine. I could afford life. This money felt tainted. I opened my laptop, searched Phoenix Elder Abuse Prevention Charity, found Senior Support Services of Arizona, read their mission, protecting vulnerable seniors from financial exploitation, neglect, and abuse. Perfect. I donated the full amount online. In the comments, this donation comes from a court-ordered restitution payment I received after being financially exploited by a family member for 5 years. I hope it helps prevent someone else from experiencing what I did. Hit submit. I'm donating it, all of it, to elder abuse prevention. I don't want his money. I wanted my dignity back. I got that. Beverly squeezed my shoulder. Then that's what you do. This was never about money. No, it never was. Late afternoon, late August. We sat on new patio furniture, small table, 2 chairs, umbrella providing shade, cold drinks, Arizona sunset, painting the sky orange and purple. The silence was comfortable. How do you feel, really? I looked at the house behind us, fresh paint through windows, plants on sills, new curtains. Looked at my hands steadier than they had been in years. Looked at Beverly. Free. For the first time in 5 years, I feel free. I can buy food without calculating pennies. I can see a doctor without fear. I can sit on my own patio without someone expecting me to fund their life. Free. Do you regret how it ended? The court, the eviction, the will? I regret it came to that. I regret Craig chose money over his father. But do I regret protecting myself? No, not anymore. Have you heard from him? One text. I didn't respond. Maybe someday we'll talk, but not now. He needs to understand consequences first. Real consequences, not just words. And the grandchildren? This hurt. Thinking about Emma and Lucas twisted something in my chest. I miss them, every day, but Craig is using them as weapons. Until he stops doing that, I can't engage. It would just teach them that manipulation works. Beverly nodded. We sat in silence, watching the sunset deepen. The house glowed behind us. Lights coming on with dusk, warm through windows, life restored. Tomorrow we should look at getting you a new car. Yours is ancient. I laughed. Actually laughed, the sound surprising me. One thing at a time. Today, I'm just enjoying sitting on furniture I chose, in a house that's mine, with my daughter who came home. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow. I'd spent 32 years running into burning buildings to save lives. Then spent 5 years letting my own life burn while I watched, paralyzed by guilt and misplaced loyalty. But fires end. And after the flames, you rebuild. I was rebuilding. Not the man I was before Craig took everything. Someone stronger. Someone who knew his own worth. Someone who would never let himself burn again. The sunset faded to deep purple. Stars appeared. Beverly and I sat on the patio in comfortable silence. 2 people who'd fought through fire and found each other on the other side. I had tomorrow now. I had choice. I had dignity. I had my life back. And that was everything. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.